Okay, what we have here is a cacao pod. And so this is it grows on a tree, and the tree is called Theobroma, which means fruit of the gods. And each tree takes about 5 years to actually start producing these pods. So the pods produce relatively quickly, but the trees grow kind of slowly. So inside here are cacao seeds, which through a process which I'm going to go through, are turned into chocolate. And so we're going to make raw, natural chocolate here. So the first thing is we have to cut this open. And I'm not sure exactly how hard this is. Okay, this is good, not too bad. So we kind of cut this open, and we're going to see inside and see what these cacao pods look like from the inside. Okay, here we go. So you can see in here that it's actually got quite a lot of room in it, and you can tell when these things are ready to cut open, because when you shake them, there's a little noise, and that's these things rattling around. And so we pull the actual seeds out. I went a little deep with the knife, and I actually cut some of the seeds in half, but that's okay. And what we're going to do now is we're going to take these seeds, and they have this white pulpy covering to them, and it smells, it's interesting actually, it smells a little bit like nail varnish. That must be the natural fermentation already happening. So this pulp is edible, and I've never eaten it before, but I'm going to try some and see what it tastes like. Then we're going to take these seeds, and we're going to go through a process of fermentation, then roasting, then grinding, and then once we've got like a powder, we're going to add a little bit of cacao butter, which, strange enough, this is a secret of chocolate that no one tells you about, is this actually contains cacao butter, but in order to make chocolate, you have to extract it out and then put it back in again. So yeah, and then we're going to put all that together with a little bit of natural sweetener, and we're going to make a little bit of chocolate. So let me see what this actually tastes like. Let me find a little bit of this stuff. Okay, so here's a little bit of the pulp. Just like a chewy, you know, it's like part of the, like a tangerine or an orange. Feels a bit like that, but it's slightly sweeter. It's quite pleasant actually. Okay, on to the next stage, which is fermentation. So it's been a few days that we've done the fermentation, taken the beans out. I think I might need a few more in the future to actually make a lot of chocolate, but we'll see. This is my first time through. And now we're gonna sun dry them. And what I learned about the fermentation is that they should be put in the sun to keep them nice and hot. And mine got a little sort of like this kind of moldy on it, but it looks fine. They did smell like alcohol at the end, so I know they were done. And yeah, so here they are now. They've gone sort of black color, bits of them, and they're a bit slimy, which is perfect. So we're going to dry them out and then roast them. All right, the coffee beans have been outside most of the day. Really begin to think I should have made more, but we'll see. So now they're sun dried. Now we're going to go for some roasting. My research suggests that you can go Fahrenheit between 275, 350 Fahrenheit. You can roast them for as little as 10 minutes or as much as 90 minutes. So a lot of variation there. I'm going to go somewhere in the middle, maybe 20 minutes. But the general theme seems to be that if they smell of if they smell of coffee or baked goods like brownies or something, then you know they're done. So I'm going to do that, and then the next stage will be the shelling of them. Okay, the beans have been in for about 20 minutes. And take them out. I stirred them halfway through, and they're looking pretty good. All right, so now what we need to do is let them cool and see if I can peel them. If I can't peel them, I'm going to put them in a frying pan and gently roast them, keeping them moving the whole time. Some of the locals here have done that, and then they start to pop, and then as they pop, I can then just take the skin off like that. So this is how much, or how many cocoa nibs that my two cocoa
pods produced, which I don't think is enough to get my hot chocolate, or sorry, my chocolate bar to be made. So I brought some reinforcements. So I'm in Nicaragua at the moment. You can just buy these from the market. They're a couple of bucks. So what I'm going to do is, rather than roast them, I'm going to do what I know how to do, and I put them in a frying pan on a reasonable medium heat. Not too many, probably just about that much. And you constantly keep them moving until you hear this popping sound. And once you hear the popping sound, that tells us that they're ready to be peeled. Then you peel them up, and then I'm going to put them in here. I'm going to fill this jar full of more nibs than this. And then we're going to go to the next stage, which is going to be blending. Now, some of my research suggests that they actually need to be coffee ground. I don't have a coffee grinder, but I do have a Vitamix. So I'm going to blend it in a Vitamix. Hopefully that will be enough to turn it into a powder. My concern is that ordinarily when you're making chocolate, you take the powder and then you add back in the cacao butter, which is the kind of the fat that's taken out of these beans. So the fat hasn't been taken out of these beans, which means the fat is going to be left into them when I try and make it into a powder. So I don't know exactly how this is going to work anymore, but we're going to give it a go and see what happens. So I've shelled the actual cacao seeds now, so they can be ground down. I've got quite a few of them. Some people throw away the actual, the casings of the seeds, but actually these can be made into a tea. So I'm just going to pop them into some water. I'm going to cook that up and put a little bit of probably some spice in there, a little bit of chili, a little bit of honey, and it makes a really nice kind of mild tasting sort of chocolatey type tea. A little bit of chili really sets it off. So that's what I would use those for. Don't throw them away, they can be repurposed. I just want to show you the tea that I made from the husks of the cacao seeds. So I've heated it up. I'm going to pour it in here. Hopefully I don't burn myself too badly. Yeah, look at that. Look at the colour of that. So I'm just pouring it here so that you can see it. Got some honey in here, and that will be my little morning beverage. Okay, so now I'm going to take the nuts, put them in the Justy Vitamix and see what happens. Most online advice is to put them in a blender or even a juicer at this stage, because the chocolate beans need to be refined to such an extent that it turns into powder. Now the Vitamix isn't going to do that, so mine's going to be quite raw and rough, but I'm going to be happy with that. So let's see what happens. Okay, so that's pretty intense in the old Vitamix, and it's made like a, well, I'll show you, cakey type powder. I'm actually quite pleased with that. It went better than expected. So this is what it's turned into. So it looks like a kind of a thick powder, and this I think is actually going to work quite well. But it's also got the fat in it that chocolate powder that you ordinarily buy doesn't have that fat. So that's why it's sticking together a little bit. But I'm going to see what happens. Okay, so now I'm going to add my chocolate powdery type thing to, I've got a double, I don't know, it's called a double boiler or something, so that I can put back in a little bit of this cacao butter, which is the fat. So ordinarily what would happen, if I had a commercial setup, I would grind this powder really fine. The finer it is, the smoother it's going to be, and eventually it gets so small that it would actually fit just inside the taste buds, and it tastes so smooth and so sweet. But I don't have a commercial grinder. All I had was the Vitamix. I don't even have a pestle and mortar, so this is going to be kind of rustic type chocolate. But also that grinding brings out the fat, and I haven't done that, so I have to add some fat back into it to make it into something that resembles chocolate. So
little bit of the butter, a little bit of this, and a sweetener. I'm going to use some honey today. And then you can put in some flavourings like a bit of cayenne pepper, or I like putting a little drop of peppermint in there as well to make it a little bit more like a mint chocolate. Or you can put a drop of orange essential oil or something like that, whatever floats your boat. So we're going to do that. Then I'm going to stir it all up, and then we put it into basically a mould. Now I don't have a mould, so I'm just going to put it into a plastic. I wish it was glass, but I have a glass one, so I'm going to put it into there, whack it in the freezer, see what happens. Now, ordinarily, when we're in this stage, if it was a commercial chocolate, then it would need to be go through a process of stirring called conching, and that would sometimes take 2 or 3 days. So I'm not going to stir it for 2 or 3 days. So yeah, like I said, it's going to be rustic, but it's going to be totally raw, and it's going to be mine. So that's the important thing. Why are you here? I just want to show you around the kitchen. So the point of this is to say I don't really have a huge amount of equipment. I don't even have one of those spinning things that dries veggies, so I put it in the drying rack. But what I do have here is a little bit of art, which I'm quite pleased about. Found a horse's head, a horse's skull, on a walk a while back, and myself and my daughter painted it and put it on the wall. So that's what's in the background there, over there somewhere. So we'll get back to you in a minute once I've done this stage. Okay, so I've finished mixing it all in. I'll show what that looks like. So I'm quite pleased with this, but I can see the little grains of chocolate in it. And you know, the commercial chocolatiers have this way of grinding it so that it goes down to half the size of icing sugar each particle. So we're not going to get there. Right, so now I'm going to pour it. I found a mold, heart-shaped mold, and I'm going to gently pour it in, fill this up, and we'll be back with you in a second. All right, so we've got them in the molds. Got this mold here. This one I'll just simply freeze, and then we'll break it. And so we haven't got any stabilizing agents in there. So this chocolate will have to be kept in the freezer and then eaten straight away, otherwise it will just melt. Especially where I am now in Nicaragua, it's so hot that it will just melt just being out. But next thing is going to be the taste test. Okay, so now comes the taste test. Little heart molds work quite well. Looking at it, a little bit of the cacao butter is separated out, but it looks fine. Good crunch. I put a little bit of vanilla in. It's bitter though. Sweetness is okay. I think this is something like 90% dark chocolate. And I can just taste the little crunchiness of the actual, where the cacao wasn't quite smooth enough. But other than that, I'm really pleased with this. The real taste test. Members of the family are going to try it.
Yeah, we're going to be the judges. The true judges. Is Edward Paget telling the truth?
It's bitter. I don't like it.
Well, yes, of course it's bitter.
It's not bad. It's not
Yeah,
bad.
at start it's like vanilla.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it gets like dark chocolate. Then it becomes bitter.
That's it.
And then
It is the real.
I would buy that chocolate. I would buy this chocolate. I really would. This is good. This is good stuff.
It's the real deal.